Hello and welcome to DFS Coach Talk. Today is Wednesday, August 12th, and I am here with Mr. Caldwell to go over a NBA slate that we're scratching our heads about. But I am Joe Cervati, by the way, affectionately known as Coach, and we thank you guys for tuning in to DFS Coach Talk today. Shane, how are you, sir?
I'm great. Yeah, they're winding down these bubble play-in games, and it's getting kind of chaotic down there. But yeah, congratulations to you and our pro Andrew Hansen on a great night last night in NBA. Both of you guys tore it up on FanDuel and especially DraftKings, and had some big takedowns and some really high finishes in the tournament. So congratulations on that, and really happy a lot of our members cashed big time as well, which is awesome.
Well, thank you, man. And it was really a team effort. I mean, you and Andrew broke it down so well. It was a great podcast yesterday. And then, we've been preaching it, but it's never been more, important than right now to really follow that process. And I did the same thing today. Besides providing lineups, I listened to you two in the podcast. You did great. And then I followed the news like crazy, kept on Twitter, stayed in our Discord. Just making notes, changing lineups throughout the day, because that's the way it is right now with everybody sitting and resting and load management and COVID. And I mean, there's so many different variables. It's never been anything like this. But, I'm proud to say, at Coach Talk here, because we're 24/7 with this sucker, I mean, it's playing to our advantage because, you got to remember everybody's in the same boat trying to figure this out. And the fact that, we were 100% plays on guys like Kyle O'Quinn and Nickeil Alexander-Walker and, just on down the line, guys that you normally wouldn't roster ended up being key players. And so it's been great. I'm so thankful we're doing well. I love the fact that our members are knocking it out of the park also. And, jump on aboard, dfscoachtalk.com. Perfect time to jump in. You can jump in for a week, a month, or a year, however you want to do it, and just enjoying the wins. We had a new member a couple days ago, 2 days in, and already he and I finished tied for second for $3,750 each a couple nights ago, and so you got to love that ROI on a $25 week membership to join Coach Talk. So come and join us for sure. Our pros, we have the hardest working pros in the industry, and man, we're having an absolute blast. So we're going to get into this slate tonight, and I'm not excited to really get into it. It's a 4-game slate. And, I'm just going to say off the bat before we even dive in, Shane, is my recommendation, even though we have a great edge and we're hot, tomorrow you got to be a little cautious. So I would say scale back just a little bit, because as much knowledge as we have at this, as close as we're following it, there is a portion of this that is just completely unpredictable. So there's actually, in my opinion, a little bit more variable towards luck with some of this tomorrow, as there usually is. Normally, 90% of it is skill, and then you have to have, some luck to not have somebody twist an ankle or, get 3 quick fouls or something like that. But there's so many variables and so many question marks for tomorrow, it's not even funny. So we will go over it, get a good base at least of guys that we can recommend from the podcast. But Shane and I were talking about it, beforehand, and you got to tune in tomorrow and check us out in Discord and on Twitter, because there's going to be so much movement. And, that 45 minutes before lock, you just got to be in there, because the news could change on a heartbeat. I mean, we had that happen the other day with Ayton, like 2 minutes before the game. So we got to stay all over that stuff. All right, man, before we jump in super quickly, let me thank both of our presenting sponsors, mybookie.ag. It is the place to go for all your sports wagering and casino action. Go to mybookie.ag, use the promo code CoachTalk. all one word, no space, and you get up to $1,000 match on your first deposit, and you get a $25 free play just for being a listener to Coach Talk. And also TVG.com, number one horse racing site on the planet. You can go either to TVG.com or go to our DFSCoachTalk.com. Click on the banner that says $300 risk-free bet TVG, and that's exactly what it is. You deposit $300, take a shot on a horse. If he loses, it is refunded to you by TVG. So take your shot. All right, my man, here we go. We've got 4 games. It is sort of cool that we don't have like a super early game, just as it allows us to really, weigh it out all day before we make that lineup. So the very first game tomorrow is at 4 p.m. Eastern, and it's only a 4-game slate. So I'm not going to go over the injuries and player news because it literally is 50% of the guys today because it's just so out there. So we're going to roll through these 4 games and give you at least a base so you can reserve some lineups and get some, possible cores in there. All right, Indiana Pacers at the Houston Rockets. They're both jockeying for really just position, but nothing tremendous either direction for either one of these teams. So what I'll do here is, I'm looking at just the probable lineups and game distinctions for tomorrow. So I'll go over those and then you can break them down for us. So for the Pacers right now, it's saying Brogdon is a game time decision. Aaron Holiday's in. Oladipo game time. It has Justin Holiday at starting and Miles Turner as a game time. So we don't know exactly who's going to fill out the rest of that roster because several of the guys, we know TJ Warren is sitting for sure. Brogdon, Oladipo, like I said, are questionable in Turner. So we have to see what that rotation is going to look like. There may be some great plays in there and some value guys. I'll let you go over that. And then with Houston right now, we believe Harden plays, but he's listed as game time decision. We know for sure Westbrook is inactive, and we have House as game time. Right now they have Gordon. This has Gordon in, but he's been out with that ankle for quite some time.
He's coming back, but he'll be on probably a minute restriction. But
probably
he is
15.
playing. Yep.
Okay, yeah. And then Covington and Tucker, it has them in. Tucker, he just plays 40 minutes every game, whether it's pickup game outside or whatever it is. So, all right, you know what? Let me check. I'm going to click on, when you're going over this game, I'm going to go to mybookie.ag. There were no lines up yet, but I'm going to double check. Why don't you give us the breakdown on this one?
Yeah, so I mean, on the Indiana side, obviously, I've been calling him the bubble goat. TJ Warren's out, so that's going to provide a lot of usage and production for these other guys. Brogdon might have a chance of playing, but it sounds like he might be out. And same thing with Oladipo and all those other guys. So you're down to guys like Aaron Holiday. So I think when we break down this slate, we'll give you some recommendations of guys we want to keep on the radar, but they're not necessarily lock and load type guys because this is going to be a moving machine tomorrow as we, we're going to be shuffling things around and looking at different guys. But guys that you want to keep in mind, Aaron Holiday is 4,000 on FanDuel, so he's a good value there, and 4,600 on DraftKings. I think we could also take a look at TJ McConnell. Because if we feel like all these guys are out, TJ McConnell could score, get assists, do a little bit of everything. He's been playing decent when he's had minutes, and he's only 3,600 on FanDuel and only 3,500 on DraftKings. So he's one of the better early value plays.
I agree. He's so scrappy, man. He's so scrappy.
He is. Yep. So those are a couple of the guys I'm looking at. I don't think I want to really go to their big guys. I looked at some of their big guys there. Not really too excited about those guys. You could look at Justin Holiday, but it just seems like he's sometimes not a very good point per minute, producer, even with all these guys out, but he might be able to put up more shots and produce a little more if literally all their other, 4 top players are out. So we might have to look at Justin Holiday as well. But I would say right now, assuming that like Brogdon's out. If Brogdon's in, I would be interested in him at 6,600 on FanDuel or 7,200 on DK. And that's really about it. We're looking at Aaron Holiday, T.J. McConnell, and keeping those guys on the radar, and potentially Justin Holiday. I don't know.
Let me throw a few other Pacers in there, and then you can hit the Rockets.
Awesome.
A couple other guys. I think Goga Batadze, the big man, may play a decent amount, and he's pretty good. I mean, I know we're really digging when we're rostering some of these guys, but another guy that steps up when he does get minutes is TJ Leaf. So there's another possibility of a guy that you could roll out there. So again, it's that's that core group with exactly what you said. I think if we look at those guys and then follow the news tomorrow throughout the day, I think we'll get a good feel. But I'll tell you right now, another thing I want to say is money is not going to be an issue with salary tomorrow. And you can't don't try to fill out your roster tomorrow and maximize and use most of your money, because you're not going to be able to do it in a sensible manner. I mean, if you have a Goga or a TJ Leaf, or there's going to be multiple guys like that throughout this slate you may build half your lineup with. So if you're leaving $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 even on the shelf tomorrow, it's not a bad thing, because it's just going to be a massive group of value guys. And the biggest mistake you can do is try to force in 2 or 3 super expensive guys just so you can use some of that salary, when it's really not a logical play. So it's a completely different strategy, and you gotta adjust to it. So give us the Rocket scoop, man.
Yeah, that's interesting you said that about salary, because I was thinking the same thing with all the crazy value plays and the volatility of the slate is, you don't have to spend all your salary. So I agree there. With the Rockets, we said Eric Gordon's coming back, but he's going to be pretty limited. So I don't think he's going to cut into the playing time for a lot of these other guys. I think James Harden might potentially play. So that's obviously a huge factor. I think that, you definitely have to consider playing James Harden if he plays, even if you think he's only getting 28 to 30 minutes, he can light it up in that time period. Because they might be just trying to keep him fresh, or fresh in terms of staying hot, in terms of not getting too cold and being able to play. So if Harden plays, you have to look at him. He is expensive, of course, 10,800 on FanDuel, and DraftKings over 11,000. And then I think also we have to keep an eye on House, whether House is going to play, because he's still questionable with the toe injury. And if he's out, you're going to probably feel a little better about Austin Rivers at 5,500 on FanDuel, 48 on DK is a good price for Austin Rivers. And Ben McLemore is a really good value and shooting guard on FanDuel is only 3,900. He's 5,000 on DK. And then you got Jeff Green, who it's kind of funny. He's listed as a center, but I guess for Houston, if you're, over 6'5", you're a center, right? So,
yes, exactly.
So,
You'd be playing the 4 for
yeah. So he's a center on DK. He's 4,400, and he's a power forward at only 4,000 on FanDuel. So if you get a couple of those guys out, then you can look at Jeff Green as well. I mean, you gotta like some of these Houston guys. They're by far the fastest paced team on this slate. And this Indiana-Houston game is probably the fastest paced game overall, even though Indiana's not a real fast team, but just the fact they have to pace up with Houston here. So you got to like this game. It's just a matter of figuring out which value you guys are going to hit. And I think you can take a look at Covington, just because, like you said, there's no load management with Covington. He just goes out and gets it done every day. And
Tucker and PJ Tucker too.
And Tucker as well. Yep. So I do like Covington. He's 6,800 on both sites. So that's kind of what's going on with Houston there. But I guess it's going to come down to that Harden news of whether if Harden's out, then you're probably loading up on several of these guys. So it's going to be interesting to see if he's going to play or not.
Yeah, I'll tell you one guy. If Harden sits, I absolutely love Chris Clemens. Chris Clemens can flat out score. And if he's going to get 30 minutes tomorrow, he may put up, 25 real points. I mean, he's going to let it fly, and he can score. So somebody to keep in mind. We have to see if Harden's going to play. I would not touch Gordon on the minutes restriction. Covington and Tucker are both in play if they're going to go. I mean, when D'Antoni plays people, he doesn't usually, take the pedal off the foot off the gas pedal very often. So we need to check on those guys and see what their status is. But certainly Austin Rivers remains in play. He's, as we know, been extremely hot. 41 real points the other night, which was sort of bizarre. But so for that, again, if Harden's out, I can tell you right now, I'm going to be lighting up our Discord with the secret squirrel Chris Clemens play right off the bat, because that guy can fill it up. So, not as adept as we'd like to be as normal, but we have too many variables here that we have to see. What the news is tomorrow. There is an early line on this game. We want to thank our buddies at mybookie.ag. I have no idea how the hell they've created a line when they don't even know who's going to play that much. But right now it's got Houston minus 8.5, and the over-unders, of course, they don't have those up because they don't know who's playing. But it has, it has the Houston team as a pretty prohibitive favorite here. So the line makes me think that maybe Harden will play, but let's see what happens there, and definitely stay in touch with us in Discord. All right, game 2 is at 6:30 Eastern. It is the Toronto Raptors at the Philadelphia 76ers. Right now, the Toronto Raptors are listed as a 5-point favorite. And all they have listed is out right now is Patrick McCaw and Serge Ibaka as a game time decision. It has all their starters in there. We have to see if that's accurate tomorrow. And then on Philly's side, we know that Tobias Harris now is a game time decision. Al Horford, same thing. So, they have plugged in right now is Milton, Josh Richardson, and Glenn Robinson III. They also have a guy that I think is a great play is Alec Burks. That dude likes to shoot, and he is not shy. So that, as of right now, if Harris and Horford are out, Burks will be 100% lock and load play for me. So give us a breakdown on both sides here if you can.
Yeah, I think, if Ibaka's out, you got to look at, you could, for Toronto, you could look at Rondae Hollis-Jefferson. He's a great value play. I think 3,600 on FanDuel and only 34 on DK. And then also, is it Boucher? Is that the right pronunciation?
Yeah, just like Bobby Boucher.
Boucher.
Chris Boucher will be chalk city tomorrow.
Yeah, he's going to be highly owned. He's 4,600 on both sides, especially if Ibaka's out. He had a big game. Obviously, he gets rebounds, but he scored a lot last game. Showed good potential. And then if you think that they're going to, limit the minutes of some of their other guys, Van Vliet and Lowry and all this, all those guys, even Siakam, then you got to like Norman Powell if he's going to get over 30 minutes because
he was unbelievable the other night, man.
Yeah, I mean, he's one of the best, really, six-man in the league, really kind of flies under the radar.
People don't realize how good he is.
Yeah, so definitely, depending on the news, we were looking at him. He's 5,100 on FanDuel and 5,300 on DK. He's a good value. And then if you want to go real deep, the rookie Matt Thomas had a little breakout game, had a really great game last time out. So if they're pretty much looking to load manage and pretty limit or bench all these guys, other starters, and you can look at Matt Thomas as an extreme value play here, 3,800 on FanDuel, 3,500 on DraftKings. So we're going to have to watch the news on Toronto because there's a lot of value popping up here if they decide, because they have nothing to play for at this point.
Right.
So I don't know. Yeah, they might play their starters for 20 minutes and then let the other guys run for 28 to 30 minutes or something like that. Some of the backups run. And then on the Philly side, I am interested if he's going to get 30 plus minutes. I'm interested in Josh Richardson coming back. Before he had a game off, he had a really good shooting game with Josh Richardson. If he can score, he can also get defensive stats, assists, rebounds. He can fill up the stat sheet. So he's 5,200 on FanDuel, 57 on DraftKings. And then I'm interested in Alec Burks as well, especially if like Tobias Harris and those guys are out. He's also cheap on FanDuel, 4,200. He's the same price, I think, is what he was yesterday. 4,900 on DK. And then I'm also interested in Al Horford. If I think he can get decent minutes, I'd be interested in him, but we don't know if he's going to play for sure yet or not. So yeah, it's going to come down to is Tobias Harris playing, and what's going on with the Philly guys as well. What about you? You got some of these secret squirrels for this game here?
Yeah, I do actually have one. You know what though? The amazing thing is we usually get so fired up when we find a couple of really good value plays because it allows us to put the guys we want in there. But everybody's a value play tomorrow. I'm telling you, I guarantee you, I leave at least $2,000 to $3,000 on the table. I know I will. There's just no doubt about it. The way Matisse Thybulle played for Philly in this last game, that kid is a great defender. He really is. He had shut Booker down for a while, and then he got in foul trouble. But Thybulle is solid, and Burks. And then, if Shake Milton's going to play and wants to score, he could be tough as well. So, I think those guys are all in play. I agree with you on Boucher. And again, he's going to be a little chalky. But, I don't trust the starters in this game for Toronto to log enough minutes to really make enough of an impact score-wise. And sometimes you can absorb that. Like today, one of my strategies was with all the value, I played Westbrook. And I didn't expect Westbrook to have a monster game. But 40 is a lot. And, it's just not for Westbrook. But if since I could afford him, I figured, hey, if I get that 35 to 40 from him, I'm happy. He'll solve that need for me, and he did. That's exactly what he did. He didn't play a ton, but he had like 38 DFS points somewhere in there, 41, something like that, and was a big part of the winning lineup. So you can, if you think a guy's going to dominate playing 25 minutes in this type of scenario, you can roll him out there. A Van Vliet or somebody like that, but it's risky. It's a hit or miss proposition. With Westbrook, I didn't feel it was that risky because he's going to play at 9 million miles an hour the time he's out there. So,
and one thing I want to mention about this game is it is the first game that's nationally televised for the slate on ESPN. I know that sounds funny, but we're looking for every little thing we can, especially with this slate, and just the fact that these players, they don't have fans cheering them on, but when they know they're on national television, some of these younger guys that get in there, might get a little bit more hype knowing that they're on ESPN, So I think that you got to look at that,
Who knows? It has Joel Embiid as a game time decision too. So, he hasn't been ruled out. So who knows? We gotta follow this one very, very closely. All right, let's go to game 3 in this. I need to take a couple of Advil trying to figure this one out. I'm telling you, the Miami Heat and the Oklahoma City Thunder. It's not at Oklahoma City. It's in the bubble in Orlando. It is an 8:00 Eastern game. And right now, mybookie.ag has the Thunder as a 4-point favorite over the Heat, which is very interesting. Right now, Miami has Kendrick Nunn and Kelly Olynyk as game time decisions. They both had some minor injuries. The Thunder are possibly sitting Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, Danilo Gallinari, Steven Adams, and Nerlens Noel. And we know Schroeder is not at the bubble. He's back, actually, but I think he has to sit out a game. So, yes, it is. Right now, it has Chris Paul in there. I'll give you one guy from this game, and then I'll let you, tear it up. I think you got to watch Luguentz Dort and Baisley. Those Dort and Baisley are the two young up-and-comers that dominate play when they're out there. So if they get to go against some of Miami's second string, they could be, two guys that get extended run that have been playing quality minutes.
Yeah, Dort's a pretty physical player there. He was challenging LeBron a little bit when they played him. Yeah, so he is a pretty good solid player, and Baisley's been tearing it up. So yeah, Baisley, he's small forward on FanDuel at 4,800, and then he's power forward center eligible for also 4,800 on DK. Yeah, so if you get most of those OKC guys out, then you can definitely fire up Baisley. I think you could probably play Chris Paul if you feel like he's going to start, and even if he just plays a limited 28 minutes, like you were saying, he's going to probably produce. He's the ultimate floor general, so he's going to definitely produce and probably take on a little bit more scoring role as well with some of their scorers out this game. So
Yep.
I think that he's definitely in play. He's not super cheap. He's 7,700 FanDuel, 8,200 DraftKings, but yeah, he's a guy you have to look at. If they have a lot of their guys out, you can look at Mike Muscala is 3,400 or 3,700 on FanDuel and 4,000 on DK. So if you get enough of their guys, their big guys out there, because he's kind of like a stretch power forward center. Okay, and then for Miami, Kelly Olynyk has actually played really good in the bubble. So if you feel like he's going to get minutes here, he's only 4,300 on FanDuel and 5,200 on DK. So you can look at him. And Bam Adebayo, if he's playing, could be another guy that, he might not get his full 35 minutes like you're used to. Right. But the guy, he can definitely produce in that amount of time. He's at $7,700 to $7,800 range. And then, Kendrick Nunn is probably going to be still out. I think he's going to probably maybe play later in the week for the last game. But I think he's still out. So if Goran Dragic, if you think he's going to get some decent minutes, he's around the $5,500 range. He's still decent. And then, of course, Tyler Hero, he's only 4,800 on FanDuel, 5,300 on DK. And then, of course, you got Jimmy Butler as another guy. Do you want to pay up for Jimmy Butler? And again, can he produce in a short amount of time? So you have to look at him at 7,900 and 7,800 on DK. So it sounds like they're going to play their guys. They probably are just going to limit Bam and Jimmy to a little bit less minutes than normal. So it's a little bit difficult to figure that out, but we'll see when the news comes in of who's actually out and who's in, and then we'll figure that out from there. But that's kind of what we're looking at. That's what I'm looking at so far here.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think coaches have a tendency in game situations like this that if they are going to play some of their regular rotation players, it's generally the younger guys to give them more experience and they have fresher legs. I think Tyler Hero is a fantastic play in this game. He's one of my core builds because I think he'll get enough minutes and he's going to be high-level competitor here. So I think Hero, even Duncan Robinson, same thing. I think they get some extended run more so than a Dragic for sure, or Butler, or Adebayo. I think those guys will play limited roles, maybe 20 minutes, maybe half at the most. So that one thing to consider there are the younger guys. And then from the Thunder, same thing. I can't see Paul playing extended minutes. I think a lot of these other guys are going to sit. And I think you got to look at the same two on the other side, the rookie guys, Dort and Baisley. Baisley's first name is Darius, which happens to be Andrew's son's name. So now we know why he likes Baisley and put him in his lineup. So shout out.
Yeah, he'll definitely be firing up Baisley tomorrow. Darius.
There's no question. I mean, he named his son after him. He's got to.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
He knew he was going to be a star in the NBA.
Yeah.
So, but other than that, I mean, it's mainly, do you want to take some of the regulars? Specifically for Miami that may get a little less run, or do you want to try to accept 20 to 25 minutes probably from a Butler, Adebayo, or in that neighborhood? I can't imagine a scenario where those guys grind out and play a 35-minute game. It just doesn't make any sense. So, again, you got to weigh it. Oklahoma City's not bad defensively. They don't play the fastest pace, so that is a little bit of a deterrent in this game as well for playing some of the older guys. So I'm going to roll out some of these rookie fellas that are in the rotation for both sides and see if they can step up. All right, a couple things real quickly. Like we said, follow us tomorrow throughout the day. We're on Twitter at DFS Coach Talk. You can find any of us there. I'm at Joe Sarvadi, JoeSarvadi. Andrew is at Language Olympic, and Shane is at DET Sports Shane, and our man Freddie is at Freddie Mills 7. So check us out there. If you want to, if you're watching this right now, this is important. If you're watching us on YouTube, please hit the thumbs up and the alarm button so that you can be given the information of when our podcasts go up. Those things help us a lot. They help us, rise up the charts there on YouTube, and that means a lot to us. Also, if you're listening to the audio version of this, everywhere podcasts can be heard, whether it's iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Podbean, iHeart, we're on all of them. We would ask you take a second on iTunes if you're listening to us there. Give us a 5-star and a quick review. We're going to have a drawing at the end of August for a 1-month free membership. And to be eligible, all you have to do is a 5-star, and just even if you put one word, awesome, or something like that, then you're possible for that monthly free membership. Instagram, DFS_Coach Talk. And again, if you want to become a member, go to DFSCoachTalk.com and hit the subscribe button. It'll walk you right through the system. All right, man, we are locking this down with Game 4, the late night sweat game, 9 Eastern. It's the Los Angeles Clippers and the Denver Nuggets. Now, this game is interesting to me, and I'm very excited to hear your take, because both of these teams could still move around and play different teams. Now, if you watched the game the other day, the Clippers were tied with 5 minutes left, and Doc took out every single player that was any good at all. He played the water boy, the trainer, and the 3 end guys on the end of the bench, and they still won. So what I read, and I'm not saying this because I'm a Mavericks fan, but I read that they didn't want to win because they felt that they didn't want to play the Mavs in the first round. So that I thought was very interesting. So they're still in the same situation, and so is Denver. Both of these teams can move positions. So based on who they can play, who they'll play in the matchups, are going to determine, if they really want to bring this game home or not. But right now, this is the game of all of them that has the least guys expected to be out. Right now for the Clippers, Pat Bev, we know Montrezl Harrell, who is back with the team, so that spells trouble in the playoffs. He's not playing yet, but he's there. Shamet is out also, and it has Paul George listed as a game-time decision. And I guess Kawhi is sort of always a game-time decision, although he's been playing big minutes in the bubble. From the Denver side, there's still Will Barton, Gary Harris, and Jeremy Grant look like they're going to be out. Jeremy Grant has a small chance to play, but Barton is still out. Gary Harris is still out, so they're going to be a little shorthanded with a guard. So right now, most of the players are intact here, and there may be a reason that they both want to win. So this could be the key game of the night. What do you think?
Well, it kind of appears like they're going to play the guys and give them a full run, but I'm not convinced of that. Like you said, the Clippers are 1.5 game up for the 2 seed for the Nuggets, who are in the 3 seed there. So the 2 seed is going to play the Mavericks. But if you can drop down to the 3 seed, you can play the Jazz, who haven't really been playing that good, and they have some guys injured. So I think both those teams want to play the Jazz. So I think the Nuggets pulled their guys the other night as well in the fourth quarter, right? They took all their guys out. So I think that they like that 3rd spot, which tells me this is really not a competition. They're both teams.
They both want to lose.
Yeah, that's the problem. So, and then it kind of looks like fool's gold, because they're like, oh, great, Paul George and Kawhi, let's say they're both going to play, and all the guys for, Jokic and Jamal Murray and all these guys are going to play, Michael Porter, and you're like, great, let's fire them up. But you better hope they get a lot of production in, let's say, 25 minutes, because that's probably what they're going to get, in my opinion here. So I'm kind of looking at, whether I want to play the stars. Like Kawhi is pretty cheap on FanDuel at 8,700. Can he pay that off? Maybe he does still play 30 minutes. He's been playing good minutes. He's a little more expensive on DK at 9,500. And Paul George is only 7,500 on FanDuel, 8,400 on DK. Paul George maybe he gets a little more run since he took the last game off there. And then if Shamet is out, then Lou Williams might get a little bit longer run. Maybe they want to get Lou Williams a tune-up game and let him play a little bit more. So he's $5,000 on FanDuel and 55 on DK. So I am interested in Lou Williams. And of course, Beverly and Shamet would be out. So Reggie Jackson's in play as well. As much as Reggie Jackson can be frustrating, he's only 3,800 on FanDuel. So I can see him being a value point guard play there. He's 5,100 on DK. Big discrepancy there. And then you got Zubac, who is pretty much just plays 24 minutes every game on the dot. They pretty much load manage him, but he's been productive. A lot of those games he's getting around 30 fantasy points, 25.
He crushed the Mavericks. He was 11 for 11 from the field. So
he's 5,900 on FanDuel and 58 on DraftKings. So if you're going to go for a value price center there. So I'm kind of looking at all those guys there, but like I said, I'm kind of interested in Reggie Jackson and Lou Williams, just depending on lineup construction and with Shamet kind of gets quite a bit of minutes. So there's quite a bit of minutes and usage available there now, but not really necessarily a lot of usage, but there's a lot of minutes available and someone's got to play them. So I don't know how deep they're going to go in their bench, but I think Reggie Jackson and Lou Williams will get a little bit more minutes here. And then on the Denver side, Michael Porter's probably not going to get a full workload, but he is good enough where he can produce in a small amount of time. He can still hit value there. So even though he is expensive now at 7,900 and 7,600,
man, has he gone up? Holy
he's went up. But I think he might still be worth it because I think he can still produce in this matchup here. He can still score and do a little bit of everything. And then Jokic is cheap on FanDuel at 8,500 at center. They priced him down knowing that he's kind of probably not going to play a full workload here. And then 9,200 on DK. And then Jamal Murray's still cheap because he just kind of came back. He had that one big game. He's 6,500 on FanDuel and 7,000 on DK. So you have to at least consider these guys, but they do make you a little nervous being that you don't know how much they're going to play. It's going to be, I guess it's like, can they get value in 3 quarters or 2.5 quarters or whatever it may be,
Right.
That's basically what we're looking at. So what do you think? Do you think these teams actually want to win, or do you like any players in this game? It's a tough one, isn't it?
Yeah, this one is just really tough. I mean, I agree with you on Reggie Jackson. Was it the last game that Paul George sat out the whole game?
I think so, but I could be wrong.
All these games start mixing together in my head because I believe I know he sat the last 5 minutes of the one game that they lost, but did they play since then is the question. I think he may have sat an entire game. If he did, then he's a great play because I would think they're going to give him a run and he's healthy. So, if that is the case, then
he sat out against Brooklyn.
All right, well then Paul George is probably my top buy-up candidate tomorrow. I'm just going to say that right now. Paul George, I believe, will be 100% owned in all of my cash and GPP lineups. This makes sense for him at 32 minutes, something like that. Yeah. Even 30, he ought to just crush it. I got a secret squirrel nomination though. Terrence Mann for the Clippers has been getting some extended run in this whole deal, and he's been terrific. Have you watched him much?
I haven't actually.
The point guard, he's a backup point guard for him, but he's been getting a good run, and he's very productive. Just somebody, again, I've got a question for you. Do you think if I call DK and FanDuel and I leave $5,000 on the table, they'll let me carry that over into the first round of the playoffs?
Yeah, carry it over? Yeah. No, I don't think,
I can't do that?
Oh, yeah. I see what you mean now. Yeah, you're saying that if you leave $5,000 in salary, do you get to use that later? Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
I don't think they're going to let you do that, but that is interesting.
I can ask, right?
Yeah, that is going to be interesting if you're trying to leave a couple thousand on the table with your lineup construction.
No doubt. But you can also look at the secondary flight guys that may end up playing additional minutes, like a Marcus Morris. He could be a sneaky 35, 40 fantasy point guy if he gets a decent run. So we need to follow the news here. I think George is a good pay up. think you're, maybe Reggie Jackson, but he seems to be splitting minutes. I think they're trying to keep Reggie healthy and fresh. He's a veteran too. So I think Mann gets a lot of that run at the point guard tomorrow. On the Denver side, Jamal Murray played limited minutes the last game specifically. Paul Millsap is a real vet. He's not going to get big minutes. And, yeah, I'm sure they'll protect the Joker. There's a few sneaky guys, maybe a Mason Plumlee. He had a terrific game the last game. And if he gets a long run at center, he's extremely efficient when he's in there. He's a good fantasy points per minute guy, Plumlee is. So he's a good sleeper guy as well. My whole team's going to be – I'm going to have 7 sleepers and Paul George.
There you go.
I'm going to have a nest of secret squirrels in this game.
Yeah.
That's for sure. But that's really – that's it, mainly. Again, the great part about the fact what FanDuel made the decision this year to go back to late swap. Last year they didn't have it, and it's so much better. Situations like this, it's important – and I would say right off the bat, make sure you roster a few guys from this Clippers-Denver game so you're able to switch out, flip-flop if you have anybody, that the news breaks as the time, through the day is going. So, again, not just follow us on Twitter and Discord before lock, but you have to almost treat it like there's 4 games, there's 4 separate locks, because all 4 games are at a different time. So you have to follow the one game, listen to the news, follow the next game, right on down the line. If you really want to maximize and not take a 0 or close to it with somebody, that's the way you have to manage it. So that's what I would do in each of these cases tomorrow. Try to latch on, dig into a couple of key plays, and then forget about salary and just roster the guys you think have the highest potential to get enough minutes to score, well. And it doesn't have, again, the other thing that's going to be, nothing to really look at tomorrow is, did the guy go 5X or 7X or 8? It's everybody, a lot of the guys you play are going to be cheap. So 5X isn't going to be good tomorrow. You've got to get guys, that you're putting in there, 4,000 that are going to have, possibly 40 fantasy points, get you 10X. So it's a different philosophy and strategy. Don't let, some of the things throw you, and then just stick with us through the day. We're going to give you the best chance, just like we did the last few days. We've been killing it. As stressful as it is trying to figure these things out, it's obviously giving us a big edge. And so, stick with us and follow through on that. What else you got?
I think that's it. I think we're excited to get to the rest of the news, and as the lineups come in and the who's actually out and who's in. And I think there'll be some more good plays that will develop. There'll probably be a few chalky, value plays, but it's kind of figuring out which guy, if you are paying up for, which guy do you think is actually going to play and will produce in the limited amount of time that a lot of these guys are playing, because there's no obvious stars on here that we say this guy is going to play 38 minutes, let's lock him in, like a Damian Lillard or something like that, right? So there's no obvious plays, so that makes it I think really digging into the research and trying to figure that out is going to gain an edge for us there as we get closer to lock time for later today. Because there's nothing real obvious on the high end on this one. Maybe Paul George is that guy, like you said, but other than that, yeah.
I agree with you 100%. Yeah, I played in the $222 tournament. There were 157 people entered, and it goes to show you how smart people are. Do you know that Damian Lillard was 90.9% owned? 9 out of 10 of us in a 157-man tournament had Damian Lillard. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
You don't often see that high of a number, but that goes to show you how good he's playing. I want to take just a real quick second before we close to give a big shout out to some of our members that sweat out the whole slate with me tonight as I was trying to take down some of these tournaments. And I did have a few takedowns, and so did Andrew, absolutely. And I know, you did well as well. But some of our members that were in there with us, Broncos fan 001, we had, of course, Brenton, our Seattle man, DJ 90501 was there with us, sweating it. Justice, of course. And I want to know why Justice gave 2 GOAT symbol. It says at Andrew Hansen, GOAT. Nothing for Coach. And 0. Not even a mention. But I still love you, Justice. That's okay. But I had to call you out. Then we've got, let's see, who else was in there with us? Gang, G-A-N-G. He was in there fighting. We have, let's see, just hang with me. Alpha Sigma 74. He was in there fighting. We also had, I don't want to leave a few. The Good Wrench 12, Good Wrench. He was riding with us, rooting like crazy. Good vibes we always talk about in there. Of course, our man J Jordan 420, Shrek 85. Big shout out to you. Then I've got because I always put all these GIFs or GIFs, whatever you want to call them, in there. So that's why I'm having to scan up. That was, I think, the main group. Did I forget anybody that was in there sweating with us tonight? Let me see here. Last look through. Yes, Ram, R-A-M, our man Ram. He was in there giving us some early, before I put my Snoop Dogg doing, his deal in there when we hit a few homers early on. And that's it. Our guys from our team, Leighton and Brett and Andrew, yourself, Dawson, and we were all in there fighting and scratching to take some stuff down, and we'll continue to do that. And I want to give Andrew and you a big shout out, specifically Andrew, who just called it out. Kyle O'Quinn went almost a triple-double today, 45 fantasy points, and wasn't crazy owned either. So it was definitely a key element to building it.
No, that was a great call out when he brought that up. I was initially a little bit skeptical. I was like, oh man, I know this guy can produce, but I was still a little nervous about it. And it paid off big time that we stuck with him, because he was low owned, and he just went off completely. And he's just like one of those. He reminds me of like Charles Oakley or something. He's just he's like an old man street baller kind of guy. He doesn't care. He hasn't played in forever, really extended minutes. He just goes out there and just hustles and just outworks people. So he's old school.
You forget how good these guys are, man. Just to make a roster is incredible. So. One thing I wanted to mention, as we do every day, our charity of choice here is mambaon3.org. That's MAMBAONTHREE.org. Wonderful charity set up by the Bryan family. So tomorrow is Wednesday, which is double header Wednesday. It is, we're doing this sort of in the middle of the night, so it sort of is today, but we will have 2 shows tomorrow. Andrew and I doing back-to-back basketball, of course, which we do 7 days a week. And then we have our weekly PGA show, which we're not going to have as many good guys in there. So we're going to be scratching the bottom of the barrel to make a lineup this week. But you know what? Sometimes those are the weeks that you can get after it. So we had a tough finish for a few of our guys last week. Koepka fell and Schauffele and a few guys. So we're looking to rebound in the PGA. So catch us for both podcasts. They will come out early evening for golf and then late evening for the NBA. Anything else, my man Shane?
No, I think we're good to go.
Back-to-back nights. You double 2 days in a row. Thanks again for covering for me for my power outage or internet outage. It ended up being out from 11 a.m. until 7:30 this morning. So I was losing my marbles, man. I couldn't communicate with anybody. I couldn't even, the phone was so slow because of the outage. I couldn't even see how I was doing in the standings. I was ready to go nuts, but everything's back to normal now. So we're good to go. All right. Well, fantastic. Final word?
No, I'd say let's crush it.
Yeah, exactly. You beat me to it, man.
Yeah.
Well, fantastic. Thanks so much for joining us. We hope that, again, it's a tough slate it'll be like that the next couple of days until the playoffs start on Monday. When the playoffs start on Monday, it's the real deal. We'll be good to go. But let's take advantage of that. Tune in. Join us, dfscoachtalk.com. And we will see you tomorrow when we have a doubleheader for both basketball and golf. And we'll look to crush it in DFS.